Hello, everyone, and welcome to Representative Sydney Kamlager-Dove's live education telephone town hall this evening. My name is Robin, and I'll be moderating the conversation tonight. Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove and her special guests, Los Angeles Unified Superintendent Alberto M. Carvalho, Culver City Unified School District Superintendent Brian Lucas, and Department of Education Awareness and Outreach Specialist Isaiah Ellis are on the line now and will be speaking in just a few moments. But before we start, I'd like to say that we're so glad that you're tuning in this evening. In order for everyone to hear tonight's call, you are currently in listen-only mode. For the moment, that means that you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. This is a live question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question at any time during the call, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. Once you've pressed *3, you'll be transferred to a representative who will take your name, where you're calling from, and your question. Then you'll enter the call queue to ask your question live. The next time you hear your name, it will be me inviting you to ask your question. If you'd like to stay up to date with Representative Kamlager-Dove's work on behalf of California's 37th District, please press *6 on your telephone keypad to sign up for her e-newsletter. You can press *6 at any time during the call. Again, if you would like to ask the Congresswoman a question, please press *3 now. And if you'd like to subscribe to the Congresswoman's e-newsletter, please press *6. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove. Congresswoman, you are live and the floor is yours, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. It is your Congresswoman, Sydney Kamlager-Dove. There are many of you on the line, so thank you for being here to discuss a topic at the core of our nation's future, education. In fact, it was the top issue requested in our constituent survey. I want to thank our incredible guest speakers. To talk about local issues, we have LA Unified Superintendent Alberto Carvalho and Culver City Unified School District Superintendent Brian Lucas, who combined are responsible for enriching the futures of 600,000 students in our community. That is a lot of hormones. There's a lot of students, so we are thankful for all that they do. To discuss how those students will one day afford college, should they choose to pursue that path, we have Isaiah Ellis with the U.S. Department of Education on the line, ready to answer all of your financial aid questions. Education is not just about classrooms and textbooks. It's about ensuring every young person, regardless of their background, has the tools to succeed. You know, before I came to Congress, I served on the Los Angeles Community College Board, and in that role, I met students from across this county who were able to achieve success because they could afford their college education. And we adjusted the financial structure. And by opening these pathways, we found that thousands of students, all ages, all ethnicities, all zip codes, were able to graduate, find jobs, and create businesses without crushing debt. We are so lucky to have a president and a vice president who understand that the cost of higher education is too dang high and are deeply committed to making it more accessible and affordable for all. So together, they have forgiven $167 billion with a B in student loan debt for nearly 5 million borrowers. I hope somebody on this line got their letter saying that their student loan was forgiven, because over 224,000 people in our state got those letters. More than half of Californians with student loans are under the age of 35, and these actions help young people across our state cope with what can otherwise be a lifelong burden. Lord knows it took me a really long time to pay off my student loans. So in Congress, I've continued to promote an education system in which every student can succeed and no one is left behind. You know, in LA County alone, there are over 30,000 children in foster care who deserve the opportunity to earn a degree. which is why I introduced a bill to remove barriers to higher education for foster and homeless youth by improving university outreach and support and providing in-state tuition for students without a stable residency. Coming from a family of artists, art has been an essential part of my life from a very young age, both in school and at home. It was where I learned to play the saxophone in public school. Unfortunately, funding cuts for arts programs are increasing in frequency, disproportionately impacting people of color and underserved communities. So to ensure that all students can express their creativity and benefit from the arts, I introduced legislation to increase federal funding to minority-serving institutions for art education. We all know that the pandemic exacerbated existing inequities, especially when it came to our schools, and I was there passing out the food during COVID. In April, I visited LA Unified's John Muir Middle School in South LA to see their Black Student Achievement Plan, one of the nation's largest educational programs dedicated to closing the racial academic achievement gap and promoting Black students' social and emotional well-being. In fact, I was there with the superintendent. Until we close the learning gap, programs like this should be the norm and not the exception, which is why I'm working to secure adequate funding for our public schools to give students the resources and support they need. This includes ensuring we have enough teachers to give students the individualized attention they deserve, which is why I am a co-sponsor of legislation to increase the minimum salary of public school teachers. Amen and amen. Among other things, I am also fighting back against my Republican colleagues' weird culture wars that include banning books to censor diverse voices and outright abolishing the Department of Education, even though many of them benefited from public school, but we won't get into that. That is, however, just a snapshot of how I've been working recently to improve students' lives. However, as your Congresswoman and a mother of a current high school student learning to drive, Lord help us, I know our work is far from over. We must invest in school-based mental health services. We must invest in more clinics on our campuses and pass common sense gun legislation to ensure that no student ever has to feel alone or fear for their life while at school. We must provide universal school meals to ensure that no child goes hungry or is unable to concentrate because of a grumbling tummy. And we must continue to push for reforms that address educational disparities, support our students and educators, and ensure that every American has the opportunity to achieve their dreams. So before I turn it over to our next speaker, I want to remind everyone, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *3. And if you'd like to sign up for my e-newsletter, please press *6. I also want to make sure that everyone knows that my office participates in the Congressional Art Competition each spring. It is open to all high school students in California's 37th district. Winners have their artwork displayed in the Capitol for 1 calendar year, and they also get 2 plane tickets to Washington, D.C. for the annual Congressional Art Competition Awards ceremony. Last year, we had over 100 entries, with Ruby Schuler-Lofgren taking home the first prize. Next year, we'd like more applicants. We want to make sure that everyone is able to participate. So for more information, go to my services section on my website, www.kamlager-dove.house.gov. So with that, we will hear from Superintendent Carvalho, and then after that, Superintendent Lucas, and then after that, DOE Isaiah Ellis. So Superintendent Carvalho, you're up.
Good afternoon, my dear representative. Thank you so much for creating this venue for information, opinion, and expression benefiting our community. Thank you also for championing all the right elements that improve the dignity, the humanity, and opportunity for young people and the workforce of Los Angeles Unified, and quite frankly, the educational community across the country. Your values are our values. I wanted to say amen as you were speaking because everything you detailed resonates powerfully, not only with me, but our 75,000 strong workforce, over 30,000 teachers, and the 540,000 students we proudly serve. My comments I'd like to reserve, quite frankly, for where we were, where we are, and the opportunities that lie ahead for all of us. Also touching on a challenge or two. You spoke eloquently about, the loss that many of our students suffered during the pandemic. Many of them personal loss, but also academic loss, and now we're seeing the increased levels of anxiety, of stress, of suicidal ideation, of depression, even obesity, as a result of that prolonged shutdown that kept kids, to a certain extent, isolated from their peers. That was a necessary step. Now we need to deal with the reality before us. In Los Angeles Unified, that translates into what was then a reality 2 years ago of a chronic absenteeism exceeding 50%, an average daily attendance much lower than what it was pre-pandemic at around 80%. Quite frankly, disappointing academic performance, particularly in reading and math, demonstrating a loss equivalent to 6 to 7 years of academic gains leading to the pandemic. And as I detailed earlier, mental health issues exhibited by our students at an unprecedented level. So we went to work, and working collaboratively with our remarkable teachers and leaders with community-based organizations, I can proudly report that today, despite all those challenges, our average daily attendance is back up to pre-pandemic levels. Our graduation rate increased 2 years in a row, now above pandemic levels, pre-pandemic levels, and at an all-time high of 87%. We believe we can reach 90% this year. And this is the stunning bit of news. At every single grade level, every single tested grade level based on California's state assessment, in reading and mathematics, our students in Los Angeles, where the vast majority of them live in poverty, a huge percentage are English language learners, many of them facing one or more disabilities. But notwithstanding the challenge, in every single grade level in reading and math, our students improved academically. They improved in terms of reducing the distance from standard. Also, we improved in every single grade level in terms of the percentage of students meeting and exceeding standards. Our credit ratings are up, our attendance is up. We have in excess of 400 infrastructure upgrades in our school system. We will maintain, thanks to recent revisions to FCC regulations, connectivity at home for every single student. And the last point I would like to make, we are not just a K-12 institution. We have doubled adult enrollment from around 30,000 to more than 70,000 students, adult students in one single year, allowing for the upward mobility in terms of higher wages for better trained adults in our community. Los Angeles Unified is certainly a district on the move, the district to watch.
Thank you, Superintendent. And you are on the move. So next we're going to hear from Culver City Superintendent Lucas to talk about what's going on in that small but mighty district.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman. That's right. My name is Dr. Brian Lucas. I'm Superintendent for Culver City Unified. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is indeed an honor to be here with the big guys. We got huge LA Unified and U.S. Department of Education and small Culver City. I think we may be about 100th the size of LAUSD. But let me tell you, like you just said, Congresswoman, Culver City is a small but a mighty place where we provide students a place to be safe and feel like they belong, that students get an engaging and challenging instruction and have multiple pathways to fulfill their professional and personal goals and dreams. We are about 7,000 students strong. I joined this community about 8 months ago, eager to jump in and help lead this extraordinary West Side district, a district with a great reputation that has a history of leading. We were the first district to offer dual language immersion back in 1971, to being the first district to offer K-12 theater arts programming, to last year being one of the first high schools in the nation to offer advanced placement African American studies, when we have an award-winning PhD professor, and it's one of our 25 advanced placement courses we now offer. Culver City definitely leads the way. There's a few other highlights I'd like to share, if I may, in my time here. Culver City High School has the first of its kind career and technical education program, which is a series of classes in video game design. And this class is no simple class like playing games all day. It actually involves coding, logic, storytelling, and storyboarding, marketing, graphic design, and much more. And brand new this year is we are offering classes in early childhood education, where our high schoolers interested in child development careers will receive instruction and work in partnership with our preschool program. We're also putting the Proposition 28 funds to work for the first time this year in Culver City. TK students through fifth grade students will now have 30 minutes of music every week. Our highly acclaimed High School Academy of Visual and Performing Arts pushes boundaries too, with programs in dance, visual art, film, theater, and music. We are equally proud of our scholar athletes, and I use the term scholar athletes on purpose, because all of our varsity teams have a grade point averages of over 3.0 for the last 4 years. And just a few weeks ago, I attended the first match of our new girls flag football team as we continue to increase opportunities for all. Speaking of scholars, last school year, our students took a total of about 1,600 AP exams. 87% of those students received a 3 or higher on their advanced placement exam, well exceeding state averages. But with all of these big achievements, Culver City has the advantage of being a small, tight-knit community with very involved participants where truly everyone knows everyone's name. This allows us to be nimble, try new things, talk to each other on the sidewalks, in front of our schools, or in the school board chambers, or at the grocery store. We don't always agree, but we do encourage and engage in dialogue that helps us grow as a school district, as an institution of academic excellence, and as a community that puts students first. And with all of these achievements, we know we can't rest on our laurels or our reputation. Like all school districts, we have areas that need improvement. With the support of our 5-member board, we chose the theme for the school year coming up, or just starting on actually, Building Forward Together. We're committed to building student achievement and their mental health and sense of belonging, building partnerships with parents, labor partners in the community, and building healthy and contemporary learning environments. We will be focusing on ensuring a strong culture of care, nurturing student wellness, and with the goal of putting students first. Lastly, our community rallied together to pass a facilities bond measure. It was called Measure E in March 2024. This early passage enabled us to start on some much-needed repairs over the summer. It's just the beginning of a more extensive revitalization plan for our schools, and I want to deeply thank the Culver City community for supporting this bond. And while I'm relatively new to Culver City, as you can probably tell, I'm immensely proud of the work we do, and I look forward to engaging in the conversation with our Southern California community and answering questions about all things our public education system tonight. Thanks again for the invite, and thanks to all of you who are attending.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Lucas. Looking forward to continuing to partner with you as well. So next we are going to hear from Department of Education, Isaiah Ellis, who is going to talk about the money and where to find it, because it's expensive out here when you are trying to go to college.
Thank you all, and thank you, Congressman, for affording us the opportunity to be here tonight. And listening to the previous speakers, every one of you are making me wish that I would move to California sometime soon. This is all the success that is going on over there. A little bit about federal student aid. We administer over $114.1 billion in grants, work study, and student loans to students who are attending a college, university, or career school. So if you are a student that is joining us, or a parent of a student that is thinking about college and you're ready to attend one of the 750 higher education institutions in California, this might be a great opportunity for you to take advantage of. And it all starts out with the free application for federal student aid, also known as the FAFSA. A lot of us pronounce it differently, but the acronyms stay the same, FAFSA. Now, by filling out this application and getting it and meeting the deadlines, make sure that you are taking advantage of our federal Pell Grants if you are eligible for those as well. Those are free money you do not have to pay back. Also, reach out to your institutions, the ones that you are interested or you're enrolling at for FSEOG grant. That's the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. In government, we just love acronyms to make things simpler. These are administered by the institution, so if you are eligible for the Pell Grant, you might be eligible for the FSEOG grant. If you are a teacher, as the Congressman was saying a little bit earlier about teachers, I come from a teacher's family. My aunt was a teacher, my mother was a teacher, my grandmother, and I come from a long line of teachers, and they mostly have taken advantage of the Teach Grant. It does come with a service obligation, but it is $4,000 that you may not have to pay back if you fulfill the service obligation. We also recommend that you take advantage of the federal work study. That affords a student to be able to earn funds while attending school. Yes, they will have to get a job on campus, or if they have a job off campus that's associated with the school, they can take advantage of that as well. And those funds will be paid out of a pool of funding. And again, that doesn't have to be paid back because they worked and earned for it. And last, we have federal student loans. We have 4 different types of federal student loans. Now, we always recommend that you borrow smartly, only borrow what you need. So when you're looking at the overall bill, you're trying to determine how much you should take out or how much you should borrow. You also want to make sure that you understand the programs, because these are funds you will have to pay back. Now, we do want to start out with our direct subsidized loan, which is a capped. It's where the government is paying the interest. Those are where you have your capital. Let's say if you borrow $500, then you see it start to build. That interest is what's building. Now, that is capped around on an aggregate amount, which basically means out of the life that you are taking out all of these loans on the course of the time, you can only take out up to $23,000. That is a subsidized loan. So a good way to think about that is that's capped, right? When you borrow $2,000, then that means that's going to stay $2,000 until at least you drop below half time, or you leave school 6 months afterwards. That begins to accrue the interest, or you're in the process of deferment. So let's keep that in mind when it refers to subsidized. The opposite is the direct unsubsidized, that's sort of uncapped. That means the moment that is sent to the school, because we don't send it directly to you, we send it directly to the school, that means the interest is starting to build. And so that's why we say capped and uncapped. The uncapped version is where the interest is building once it's been sent out to the school. But don't worry, you don't have to pay this back, and again, until you drop below half time and or 6 months after you leave school, or you're in the process of deferment as well. And that has a capped amount of about $57,500. We do have a graduate student loan that is capped at $20,500 that follows along the unsubsidized route. So you want to make sure you contact the institution to see if you qualify, you have room to qualify for that. Now, separately, we have the Grad Plus and the Parent Plus. Both of them are based upon credit. The difference is the Grad Plus is where the student's going to make a borrow up until the full cost of attendance. That's where you have the average of your tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, and miscellaneous costs and transportation as well. You can take up to the full amount if you qualify. That's going to be in the student's name. The Parent Plus loan is under the parent's name, and they can borrow up to the full cost of attendance as well. But keep this in mind: the parents are responsible for paying that part back. So again, only borrow what you need, but you also have to think about that you're borrowing for multiple years. So if you're looking at that bill and you're saying to yourself, well, we're borrowing $15,000, we can afford $15,000, you have to factor in that it's 15 times 4, which is $60,000 that you potentially may be borrowing. So you always want to borrow and make these informed decisions, but taking this information to help you get to that level. Now, last 2 points that we want to make quickly is that we do have the direct consolidation loans. That's where you take all of your loans, all of your federal student loans, you take them and you bundle them under one umbrella. You bundle them under one interest rate. This is very, very helpful because it leads us to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. As the Congresswoman said, I really hope you are putting your application and we received that letter. My wife received the letter. She was ecstatic. That was the best birthday present I could. I just pushed her along and said, hey, babe, you might want to fill out this application. And she says, all right. And she went ahead and finally had her federal student loans forgiven. And man, it's been a wonderful 2024. I'll tell you that. So, but keep in mind about several things about as it relates to the PSLF program. You do have to be employed by a federal, state, or local government and or a qualifying nonprofit program. You have to have worked full time or currently working full time while making these qualifying payments. And a little bit about that full time, we need 30 hours or more. Qualifying payments, we need payments in full. And lastly, the loans themselves have to be federal direct loans. And you see, it comes out full circle with that federal direct loan program. So all of these things are meant to help you, but they are meant to be used in combination with other sources. So you don't want to just rely on one source or expect one source to pay for the entire cost of attendance, because the cost of attendance may vary whether you're going to a community college in the state or you're going to a college, private or public, four-year institution. We always want to understand that there are different sources to different funding. It may be private, it may be public, it also may be coming from some of your family or friends. But however, it is all meant for you to help you achieve your dreams. Thank you, and we're happy to be here and answer any questions today.
Thank you so much, Isaiah. Now we're entering the question and answer portion of this event, where we're going to ask our participants and they'll be answering your questions. As a reminder, please, if you would like to ask a question, press *3 on your telephone keypad at any time during this call. And if you'd like to subscribe to Congresswoman's newsletter, please press *6. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to take our first call, and our first call comes to us from Andrew. Andrew's from Culver City. Andrew, you are live on the call with the Congresswoman. Please ask your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Congresswoman, for all your wonderful work, and also Superintendent Lucas, who's our superintendent here, is doing a great job. I know that the Department of Education has greatly increased funding, particularly for career technical education and also for mental health programs for students. How would we encourage our school districts to make sure that we can expand and take advantage of this funding?
So I think that's a good one for Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Isaiah? Well, until he comes back on, maybe something happened, technical difficulties. I will say it's a great question, and we know that the Department of Education, with funding from investments coming out of the Biden administration, has been focused on mental health supports, along with, I know from my time in the state legislature, we also worked to make sure that we were increasing investments in mental health supports, especially as it related to COVID, and just making sure that young people were able to readjust and deal with all of the issues that were bubbling up because of that. And there have been an increased level of partnerships with nonprofit organizations and mental health and sort of healthcare organizations and school districts to make sure that as close to wraparound services are being provided to school districts as possible. I also know here in Los Angeles County, the Board of Supervisors has also been invested in making sure that mental health services are getting out to LACO, but also to nonprofit organizations that are working with school districts. So I don't know if either superintendent wants to maybe add maybe some specific programs that have come up. I know with regards to LA Unified, there's a pilot project with Planned Parenthood that focuses on, healthcare, but also, and they're working to expand that to also include behavioral health as well. And I think we have Isaiah, in case Isaiah wants to add anything to some of the things that I shared.
Sure, and if anyone knows about technology, it always fails when you get ready. You get so excited, right? But to answer the question that was posed, we here at the department, we do have a grant, a competitive grant that we administer to LEAs and SEAs. It's the School-Based Mental Health Service Grant. It's a formula grant that's administered through our Office of Formula Grants under the Office of Safe and Supportive Schools. It's not made to individuals. It's made directly to LEAs or local educational agencies, SEAs, which is the state education agencies. And if you're interested in learning more about that, we recommend that you do contact your local LEA or SEA just for more information on how it pertains to your local area.
Thank you.
The only thing I would add, this is Superintendent Carvalho, if I may, is as you detailed earlier, Representative, we support this administration's efforts, and we are concerned what would happen if a different administration that does not value public education would do to those programs that fund career and technical programming, like Carl Perkins funding, that subsidizes equipment necessary for the laboratories for career and technical programming. Secondly, as Isaiah just said, we rely on partnership money. For the delivery of mental health services, where they are face-to-face or telehealth, we are relying right now on resources, some of which come from the federal government, to fund partnerships with community-based organizations, with Planned Parenthood, to support our wellness centers in our schools. So it's about ensuring that we support your efforts in Congress and demand of others to appropriate the sufficient funding through entitlement programs, Carl D. Perkins for career and technical education, as well as funding for partnerships between the school systems and community-based organizations who do very good work in the space of mental health.
Thank you.
Our next call is from Jessica. Jessica's calling from South LA. Jessica, you are live on the phone with the Congresswoman. Please ask your question.
Thank you. And I apologize for the background noise. My toddler's with me. This is for Superintendent Carvalho. I think smaller class sizes are extremely important for student success. Does the district have any plans to decrease the student-to-teacher ratio? And if so, are there any plans or any steps being taken now to achieve that goal?
Yes, so thank you so much for that call. I agree. Class size is important, particularly when we're dealing with students in poverty, students of color, students who are English language learners, or students with disability. The research indicates that reducing class sizes for those subgroups of students actually often leads to improved academic performance. You'd be glad to know that as a result of our work with our labor partners, we negotiated a contract with the teachers union last year that effectively reduces across the board the class sizes, the average class sizes in academic programs by 2 pupils over a 2-year period of time. However, for schools that are the highest priority, meaning these are the schools that for many years have underperformed, the schools that have the highest level of poverty, we actually rushed to decrease the class size ratio in those schools ahead of all other schools. That's based on our work specific to equity. The schools that have the greatest need deserve the greatest investment and the fastest investment. So there are 121 schools in the district. They're deemed as priority schools. These are the schools that have been identified in terms of performance, but it's also the challenging demographic profile of the student population, the performance of the school. And these schools have already actually reached the class size reduction that we funded based on the contract with the union. With that said, I do believe that this is a golden opportunity for the state of California and the federal government, who at one point used to fund an entitlement program, Title II, that could be used to reduce class size. Modifications were made under a previous administration. We need to revisit that to allow federal funds to actually reduce class sizes, in addition to substantially more state funding to continue that progression towards smaller classes across classrooms in the state of California.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please remember to press *3 on your telephone keypad to ask a question. And if you're enjoying this update, I encourage you to press *6 to subscribe to the Congresswoman's e-newsletter. Our next question is coming from Cheryl. Cheryl is live on the call. Cheryl, please go ahead and ask your question. Cheryl, you are live on the call. Please ask your question.
Cheryl, are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hi.
I do love what everyone is saying so far, but my concern is I'm from the southwest side of Los Angeles. My concern is safety for the kids. There's a lot of bullying going on in the schools, and it doesn't seem like the schools are doing much about it. They recently had an incident at Manual Arts School, where the young lady ended up dying a week later or so. So it's a lot going on over here in this area by Manual Arts, Normandy Avenue. I just opened a daycare up down the street from Normandy Avenue Elementary. There's a crosswalk right there, and these cars at 7:30 in the morning are not stopping. The crossing guard is out there, and they're not stopping. They're about to run the crossing guard over. So I tell my little daughter, wait right here on the curb and let me go out first, because that's how dangerous it looks in the morning and in the evening. So my thing is, what are we doing about the safety in the schools? Because it's a lot of bullying going on. Washington High School had an incident months ago. It's a lot going on in our community. You guys are in Culver City, so you're not in the heart of it. We're in the heart of it. I just opened up a daycare in the heart of it because I'm trying to help the community around here in my area. I didn't want to open one up somewhere else because it's much needed right here. So I have spent all my resources, but I have no help I used all my own income. Everything that I opened it with and remodeled the house with was mine. I need some resources, some help if possible.
Yeah, well, thank you for
one more
thank
question.
you for all of. Yeah. Did you want to add one more thing?
Why aren't you guys using peer mediation? I did peer mediation in charter schools. I've never did it in the public school, but charter school it was a hit with charter schools. Peer mediation it eliminates a lot of the foolishness that's going on during school hours that nobody even knows about. It's called peer mediation. Yes, so something to think about, you guys.
Thank you, Cheryl, for all of those questions that you asked and also comments. I will take a first pass. And I want to say, Culver City also has some challenges, and I think they've been working hard to address those things. Just last week, I granted $1 million to two nonprofits that work specifically in South Los Angeles to target violence intervention and violence reduction initiatives. This is to make sure that there are folks involved in helping young people get to and from school safely without being jammed up by bad people, without being bullied. And so that's just one thing that is being initiated actually across South Los Angeles, because we all recognize how important it is to keep our young people safe. There's also been a number of grants coming from the Department of Transportation to focus on pedestrian crosswalk safety, because we know in certain parts of South Los Angeles, there are high fatality numbers when it comes to pedestrians at crosswalks. And so I've been in conversation with the city council members that represent South Los Angeles to make sure that they are getting connected to these opportunities from the Department of Transportation to address a lot of those issues. Peer mediation is a great idea, and in fact, there is a nonprofit organization called Shades that is an effort out of the Superior Court, actually, Los Angeles County Superior Court, that works with the Unified School Districts. And the organization, what it does is when young people are doing bad things, they actually meet with a jury of their peers to discuss the incident, what happened, and what some of the resolutions, restorative resolutions, should be. And so that's one way, and it's been an incredibly successful program. They deal with, hate crimes that happen in the schools, and then they also deal with, bullying and aggressions and things like that happen in the schools. And it's an opportunity for the young people to hear from their peers about what they've done and then work together to bring about resolutions that make sense, that also have buy-in from the young people that have been engaged in that kind of behavior. I don't know if either superintendent has anything extra that they would like to add to that response.
Congresswoman, this is Dr. Lucas from Culver City, if I may, real quick.
Yeah, go on.
Right, yeah. So for me, I just would like to tell the caller and others on the call, safety for us in Culver City and, of course, the greater Los Angeles area is about that there's a sense of belonging and connection for our students. And so we feel that if that is in place, then we've got lots of mechanisms to help support students who are experiencing troubles in school. Perhaps it's bullying or other sorts of things that are interfering with their learning. Some things that we've done, for instance, are we did receive, of course, dollars after the COVID pandemic, but we are maintaining those counselors on all of our campuses, so we are not reducing those counselors even though some of that COVID funding has gone away. Working with partnerships across the county. One of our board members, our Vice President Isidore, connected us with the LA versus Hate organization that will help us combat hate language. Also working within our schools to provide time built into the school day for students to connect with a caring adult. We have it in different manifestations across our schools. At the high school, every Wednesday, this is a time called Culver Pride Flex, which is a period of the day when students can choose to get interventions, either academically or emotionally, and spend time connecting with teachers and caring adults on the campus. The same phenomena happens at the middle school and elementary school, too, where there's daily time set aside to find connections and to make sure we're listening to our students and their needs, and then, of course, to find resources for them.
Great, thank you. Superintendent Carvalho, did you want to add anything?
Certainly. So, number one, I want to thank the caller for chiming in. I'm very familiar with the area that she spoke about. Certainly, Vermont Square Park, the area around Normandy and Vernon, those are well-known areas to us. And she is absolutely right that in many cases, and for a long time, the city's, the community's attention to vehicular safety was not what it should be. That is why Mayor Bass and I met last year, and I'm very proud of our mayor, we agreed that we needed to dedicate additional resources in terms of infrastructure upgrades, signage around school zones, identify those areas where we see the highest level of vehicular danger, and address it. And I am proud to report that Mayor Bass and I, as well as City Council President Kukorian, just within the first week of school, and we started the school year on the 12th, we had a press event to showcase the fact that we have the highest number of crossing guards ever hired by our community. Secondly, we added hundreds of additional signs, school zone signs, with stiff penalties for violators around school areas and around certain intersections that we know to be dangerous. So that addresses one of the points made by Cheryl. The second point, much like my colleague in Culver City, we have made extraordinary investments into areas that, quite frankly, work to prevent violence, prevent abuse in school, which often comes from the community onto the school campus, by partnering with community-based organizations, by bringing in restorative justice coaches into our schools and RJ, restorative justice training, by enabling and funding peer mentoring done by students with students who are trained on the early identification of critical types of behavior that sometimes underlie future actions to address those issues. We also developed compacts with the cities, a number of cities, including the city of LA, also a number of cities in the South, to address community issues. We cannot do it alone. Often the issue of community violence transfers itself onto the school campus. So if we are to find solutions that actually work, it's not just about addressing in a responsive way violence or bullying in schools. It's about understanding the root cause, partnering with community-based organizations, funding organizations that have a presence in a school, and then hiring the right people. So we have climate experts in our schools as opposed to attitude or discipline enforcers, individuals who actually understand the students, are trained to understand the students, and can de-escalate conditions and situations. We are attempting to reduce the awfully high, not only here, but across the country, awfully high ratio of counselors, psychiatric social workers for students, and establishing those connections with the community to try to understand the root cause of issues that need to be resolved not only in school, but also in the greater community.
Thank you so much. Our next call comes from Greg. Greg's calling from the Florence area. Greg, you're live on the call. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, my question is real simple. I know that the election's coming up, and I know that one side is talking about that Project 2025, but one of the most important things they were talking about was eliminating the Department of Education. Can the speakers speak about what that would actually mean? I think people are just kind of like, well, you know, maybe I'm not happy with the school district. Why do I care if it goes away? Can someone speak about that, please?
I
thank you.
willingly. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg, for that question. You're going to make my blood pressure go up. So as people know, there's something called Project 2025. It is a 900-page document that really wants to do away with all of government, and included on the list of things to be eliminated is the Department of Education. And so what they're saying is you should not have a federal agency that really is responsible for, having a basic framework with basic protections that would support every child, every student, also every teacher, every parent in a public school setting and in a school setting across this country. And we all deserve just basic federal protections. And so by abolishing the Department of Education, they are saying, hey, just let all of these decisions, be made at the state and local level, and then you don't need any federal oversight. Well, if you do that, you're at the mercy of, whoever is the governor for that particular state, or whoever is the mayor for that particular little city, or maybe who is responsible for managing that particular county where maybe the school system is located. And you can get all kinds of, hanky decisions that are hyper-partisan, that will most definitely marginalize certain students, and that will not be fair and just. So they are also saying, let's expand school choice options. And so really that's to really eliminate and compress, public school systems, to move folks out of public school systems. And, most of the folks that go to public schools, are Black and brown. They're also working class, and they're poor families. There are almost 200 dialects that are spoken in LA Unified alone. The other thing that they want to do is ban or restrict the teaching of critical race theory. And so whatever you think about that, I think everyone deserves the opportunity to learn history, regardless of how uncomfortable that history is. It is important that you know it. And by eliminating the Department of Education, you're essentially saying, whoever is in control of that particular school district can make decisions about what history, will be taught, which heroes will be taught. And so I think that's a slap in the face to folks like Harriet Tubman and John Lewis, who fought for us to have the right to vote, but also for us to have the right to go to a public school system. The other thing is they want to ensure that the 10 Commandments are displayed in classrooms around the country. And so what does that say to folks who are young people who go to school who are not, Christian? There are many faiths that are taught, there are students of many faiths that go to so many of our public school systems, and essentially you are shaming them and their religion. And we have always said we have to maintain a separation of church and state. Not the last thing, it will also, part of this thing is going to be to get rid of USDA. And so that is an agency that really sort of monitors food to make sure that we are eating safe food. Well, so many public school systems are actually providing meals to our young kids. So do you want them providing food that's toxic or poisonous that could kill the young people because there's no federal oversight? And then they want to phase out to the tune of $16 billion Title I funding, as well as converting the $13 billion in IDEA programs funding. And though the IDEA focuses on students with disabilities, so they want to convert that money into block grants. And which is a problem because not everyone has the capacity to apply for those that will know that it is coming. And IDEA is already underfunded. The last thing is it is eliminating our freedoms. And everyone does have the right to an education. Everyone has the right to a public school education. And by defunding, eliminating the Department of Education, you are actually getting rid of that right.
I could not agree more with our Congresswoman. Abolishing the Department of Education is basically eliminating the most powerful advocate for equitable access to high-quality education the country has, close to the seat of power in Washington, D.C. That means that the duties and responsibilities of the Office of Civil Rights would disappear or would be transferred as a section of another office. That would mean that, as the Congresswoman said, the distribution, the appropriation, allocation, and monitoring for elements such as supplement, not supplant, associated with the $18 billion annual investment under Title I for kids living in poverty could be compromised. The $13 billion, which is woefully low to support students with disabilities and the IDEA, could be compromised. The protections under Title II and Title IV, Title IX could be compromised. Who would be watching the welfare, the well-being of children in America? Would it be the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Justice? We know that education is the best investment. Why not have the biggest champion closest to the seat of power in Washington, D.C.? This is a regressive idea that, as was stated earlier, is found in the 900 pages of a document that, quite frankly, right now has no ownership. Nobody wants to own up to it, but we know what it means. We know what it says. So I would be, as a parent, as a citizen of this country, as an educator, extremely concerned if, in fact, the Department of Education were to be eliminated. That is not where fraud, corruption, waste, and abuse exist. That is the one department that, quite frankly, funds and fuels opportunity for America's democracy. And I think that we would be in for a big surprise if we do not really read between the lines that defunding or eliminating the Department of Education is in essence challenging entitlement programs that benefit America's children. It is, in essence, turning back the clock, perhaps prior to 1965, and reversing the rights that many won at that point. It is inconceivable that today we're discussing the only country, only industrialized nation in the world that is discussing the viability and the need of a Department of Education in this land. It is despicable, and there is a real theory of action that seeks to keep many where they are rather than allowing everyone to become their best selves through a powerful public educational program across the country.
Thank you, Superintendent. So we have, I think it would be great if we could get in two final questions. The first one is coming to Isaiah. So Isaiah, you're up. Amanda has a question online. She says, what is the Department of Education doing to support workers enrolled in PSLF, which has been woefully underfunded?
Well, first, thank you for that question. And thank you to all of the public service workers who are teachers, law enforcement, firefighters, members of the military, crossing guards, janitors, all those individuals who have dedicated their life to serving the citizens and residents and people within our great country. Just wanted to take a moment just to say thank you. And to answer your question, it really falls in our first part of our mission because we have priorities, but we are mission driven. And in part of that, and one of our missions is to inform the constituents of the financial assistance programs that we do have. And we're doing that understanding that information has to be continuous first and foremost. So regarding the PSLF program, we're ensuring that our social media platforms are pumping out information. We're ensuring that information is put on our partner emails. And if you're not signed up for our partner emails, please visit our financialaidtoolkit.org and make sure you sign up for our partner emails to stay up to date as the recent changes within our financial aid and our financial assistance programs. And we focus on how the language is being conveyed. We've tried to make it easy to understand. A lot of time we get lost in legal jargon, and people find it hard to understand the basic nuances of a complex program. And so we want to make sure that we make it easy to understand. And most importantly, we take this information and then we bundle it, we put it together, and we create what's the PSLF Help Tool, which is to help guide you along how to apply for the program, how to be able to find out if your employer is an eligible employer and whether you qualify for the PSLF program or its counterpart, which is the Temporary Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And so we do this with the tools, and we have a focus on usability, making it easy to navigate, making it easy to get your application in and be evaluated, and just even at the simplest terms, get a payment count to make sure you see that updated. Because if you see and you know you have to make that 120 qualifying payments, and when you have an updated payment count that says you're 118 payments and 2 payments away, you're more motivated to make sure you get those 2 payments in so you can have and be qualified for that particular program. So we're focusing on the areas of informing and focusing on areas of improving the tools that are used to help you qualify for the program. And lastly, we're improving the language on our website to make sure that you can share it on your social media, share it with your friends and your community and people that you're conversing with and people that you're informing, whether you're at a grocery store or at your place of faith, worship. We're trying to make it easy for you to be able to convey the good news and information to some of your community. So that's what we're trying to do and improve. And lastly, I would say we're always looking for feedback. So if you have something that you say, look, this can improve your program, this can improve the accessibility, this can improve the dissemination or the information, we are always ears open. So please provide us your feedback, and we will be happy to listen.
Thank you, Isaiah, so much for that response. So the last question, which came online, is from Shanae, and her question was, how can arts organizations best serve the schools? So I will answer that just because this will be the last question, and I'm going to try to go really fast. So first, the American Rescue Plan that was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden actually provides funding for extended learning opportunities such as summer school and after-school programs. So it's a great opportunity for nonprofit organizations to partner with school districts to offer a host of programs, including arts. The plan also includes investments into school infrastructure improvements, such as repairing or modernizing aging facilities. And I know that, what we want is we want to be able to have auditoriums, improved and updated. We want to be able to have, not just the fields where people are playing sports, but also the rooms where they're learning how to play instruments. LA Unified won an Oscar for the last repair shop, which shows that they are still committed to providing music in the schools. The other thing is that there will hopefully be federal funding to minority serving institutions for the purposes of increasing arts education because of a bill that I introduced called the Equitable Arts Enhancement Act. So that will actually increase dollars going to schools that are providing increased arts education. The last thing is, earlier this week, I actually hosted an arts funding convening. We had over 100 attendees. Most of them were nonprofit arts organizations that are interested in doing things with the schools or that already do things with the schools. For example, Inner City Arts is a great organization that offers after-school arts programming and has relationships with many of the a few schools in LAUSD. I know that Culver City also has the Culver City Education Foundation, and they have partnerships with some of the businesses in Culver City like Apple and Google to provide art supports as well. Sony Studios has also been a great partner for Culver City. But I share all of that to say that there are many points of entry for nonprofit arts organizations that want to work with school districts. And lastly, the NEA and the NEH also provide grants for nonprofit organizations that work to offer arts programming for schools and young people. So with that, I think we have run out of time. I think I'm actually 2 minutes over. I want to thank the almost 5,000 people for participating in this telephone town hall. How often do you actually get to ask a question of the superintendent of Culver City Unified School District and LA Unified School District? And how often do you get a money guy from Department of Education answering your questions about financial aid? We put on this town hall because, as I mentioned, it was the #1 issue that came up from constituents in the 37th district, and it is my job to listen to you all and to provide you the information that you're asking for. My office is here to serve you. If you can't get an answer from a federal agency in a timely fashion, or if you feel like you have been mistreated, then call my office so we can help you. We are going to do our best to make sure you receive a fair and timely response to your problem. If you have a casework request as well, please call my office at 323-965-1422. To stay connected to what I am working on in Congress, please visit my website at https://Kamlager-Dove.house.gov. I shared that with my mother. She said, "Why is it so long?" I said, "Well, that's just the government." So thank you again to Superintendent Lucas and Superintendent Carvalho, and thank you again to Isaiah Ellis from the Department of Education, and thank you to all of the constituents who joined us to talk about education in the public schools. Have a great night.